Welcome to Back It Up. Special guest here. We got Chris Wojcik, assistant coach at Notre Dame, and it's a really nice opportunity to have Coach on. Corey Winkoff here. We got Mike Salippo from Boston, John O'Derna from Manhattan, and of course we're accompanied by Coach Woj. Coach, how we doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, man, pleasure to have you on. It's always good to catch up with you.
I know it's been a long time, so I'm glad to get on with you guys.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what you guys are doing this year.
For sure. I know we're, as obviously like all of us, season got, cut short, but, looking forward to just talking lacrosse. I think it's a great little idea and forum that you guys have going. And, I'm looking forward to the conversation.
We appreciate it. Listen, the show's, it's really for the coaches. We're trying to offer some valuable content and also just let the voices from some of the best college coaches around the country just speak their knowledge and educate as well. So I think without further ado, Coach, you want to just maybe take us back a little bit, give us your lacrosse journey. You can start, maybe as a kid growing up in Jersey as a player, and then take us through when you decided to get into college coaching.
Yeah, thank you. I grew up in New Jersey, about 25 miles outside of Manhattan, the city. So growing up in a pretty lacrosse heavy area, particularly the town that I grew up in was, lacrosse got started in the mid 70s. I went up graduating high school in 1992. So I was really growing up in the 80s. So lacrosse was actually pretty big in our town at the time. It was a pretty big sports town overall. I grew up with three brothers. We were playing everything like all of you guys, we're playing everything when we were younger. Really soccer was probably my biggest sport when I was younger, but, I wrestled, as well in high school. And, lacrosse really wasn't, I wasn't even really exposed to it till, really almost a little before middle school. We actually, it's pretty funny, we grew up on the same street as the high school lacrosse coach. And, he was four houses down from us, and he started the program. But we were, my brothers and I, we were really into baseball. My dad had played baseball in college. My dad was a pretty good athlete. We all started playing baseball right away. Lacrosse was not something on our radar. And, it just happened the high school lacrosse coach was on the same street. My brothers and I was in the middle, just beating on each other all day. We were outside playing sports, and he was always on us. Sean Cherwich, my high school coach, to try to get us to try lacrosse. So my older brother made the switch, and then eventually I started playing in fifth grade. My younger brother started playing as well, and I was also really lucky that the man Skip Probilski, who started our youth program in our town, he had a son. He had four sons. One of them was in my grade, so he obviously had a vested interest in that class, and he really brought us up through the youth ranks. But we were encouraged to play multiple sports. I wound up playing soccer, wrestling, and lacrosse in high school. And our head coach, Coach Sherridge, said he was a football player in college. He played football at UConn. He wound up playing lacrosse in the spring in college. Simply, a lot of guys back then started playing just so they can get out off-season football work. So he was a guy who kind of stumbled into it as well. But he wound up building a great program, in our town, and the high school team was really successful through the 80s. And it was something you aspired, obviously all you guys growing up in communities, something you aspired to do, when you were younger. The sport was getting bigger and bigger, in our town. And overall, just had an awesome experience. I had a great group of the guys in my class that a lot of us wound up going on, to play in college. And when I started looking at schools, I was really, I really wanted to play two sports. I really wanted to play soccer and lacrosse. I really wanted to play at the highest level possible. Obviously, it's even greater today with specialization, but they're saying you can't do it. The off-season training in college, what have you. You can't do it at the Division I level. You're too small. All those things, and I was just committed. I really wanted to do it. And I was really, really lucky, that I was able to use sports to look at some really great, academic schools, and combine that with, obviously a Harvard education, an opportunity to go to school, in Boston. And I was really, really lucky that both coaches really were willing to allow me to play both sports. So I went to Harvard, graduated in 1996, wound up playing both sports, all 4 years, and, wouldn't have traded that really experience for anything. And as I alluded to earlier, really soccer was my first sport. When I was younger, we wound up, my class in high school, we wound up winning a state championship. We were a great soccer town. And when I went to college, probably lacrosse became, I wouldn't say more important, but I think I developed a lot faster in terms of my lacrosse skill set and my ability on the lacrosse field. And but I always wanted to play professional soccer. When I was in college, I always wanted to play pro soccer. Also at the time, the MLL had not started up yet. This is in the early 90s. Not saying I would have been able to play, but there was really, soccer was the only sport that I played of the two that had a viable professional league to pursue. And so after college, I went to Holland. I went to Europe. I went to try to play professional soccer.
Sick.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a dream of mine. I was very lucky. My parents, with their blessing, a lot of my friends at the time were going on and to great jobs or wherever. And I think my parents are really lucky that they gave me, their blessing, that it wasn't, hey, you got to go get a job right away. So I went to Holland. I wasn't good enough to play in the full-time professional leagues there. I wound up bouncing around a couple places and trying, at different clubs. I wasn't good enough. I also, at the same time, a couple of my college teammates in lacrosse, we had been talking also about going to Australia and playing lacrosse. And I think some of you guys have, know some people that have gone over either to England or Australia. That's more of a glorified men's league. So I was in Holland from August through the holidays and wasn't good enough. And I didn't catch on with the team and wound up pivoting when I came back from the holidays. And after that, I wound up going to Australia for a year. And this is now early 1997. Went there with a couple of the guys that I played with in college, as I said. Went with my high school teammate of mine. There was a couple of Americans over there, a couple of guys that played at UVA that we knew. And we wound up getting a house together, getting part-time jobs. And we just coached at, the club that we played for. And we played on their men's team. And that's what we did. And I was in Melbourne, Australia, and wound up being there for 9 months. And, I learned, a lot about myself at that time. You're thousands of miles from home, 22 years old. Just a lot of the things that are really, really important to you. You really spend a lot of time thinking about. And, my mother was a school teacher. She was a home economics teacher. When we were younger, she would bring a lot of the girls home to our house. And at the time, we didn't really think of that. And, as I got older, what really struck me and resonated with me was, this is my mom's a teacher, but the care that she has, for these young people. A lot of these girls were from broken families, didn't have great structure. And my mother wasn't just an 8 to 2:30 teacher that showed up and did her job. Like it was in her heart for what's best for these young girls. And, as I said, they came to our house a lot. And that just really, really struck me that, hey, you can have a job that has an incredible purpose. From that, those early times, combining with my passion for sports, I wanted to be in education, whether it was being a coach or whether it was being a teacher and a coach. And it was in my heart. And it really kind of solidified and crystallized for me when I was over in Australia. And I was lucky, through my parents, giving me perspective that I have to not be in a rush. Hey, we want you to pursue this dream of yours to try to go play soccer. And we know, the Australia thing is not going to be a career thing, but it's going to be an incredible life experience. And I was lucky that they were on board with this. I'm gaining 2 years of my life here. I know, and looking back, I'm 46 years old. Like I don't wish that I started my, my working career 2 years early. And again, a lot of people need to do that. I understand. And I was just really lucky, with my parents, my parents' blessing, and really combined with my mom. I talked about my dad. He worked in a metal fabricating shop. He was a blue collar guy. He's just put his head down, not, work his ass off. He's 78 years old. He's working 12, 13-hour days. He's just I don't love the word grind, but he's a grinder, man. He just goes in and he works, and that's what he knows. So those were, the huge influences on my life. And when I got back from Australia, I really wanted to coach. I really wanted to teach. And I wound up right away just kind of volunteering at my high school. I was living at home. I'm 23 years old. I'm just volunteering Westfield High School, New Jersey, and coaching and looking for a coaching job. So I really wanted to be at the college level, but if not college, potentially at the high school level. And there just wasn't anything coming along. A Harvard lacrosse alum, who worked on Wall Street in New York, who I knew, just called me up and said, "Hey, we lost someone, on our desk. Are you interested?" And, as an economics concentrator at Harvard, it's getting to the point where now we're starting to pay back these loans. And, really, really wanted to coach and teach, but also, one of the things, the values I live by is, listen to everything, look in everything, and live your life with no regrets. And so, it is important. Hey, I wound up going in, talking to these people. I wound up getting a job offer, and it was a job offer. I wound up taking it. And I wound up working on Wall Street for a little bit, but it was a great place to work. Great people, but just, I felt hollow. I didn't feel fulfilled. I was lucky still to be in my mid-20s and not married, and I could experiment. I could be flexible with my career. And I was really not too long into that. I was already, I want to coach. I want to teach. But I wasn't just going to leave for any job, and kind of had feelers out there. And then, September 11th, 2001, the building I worked in was very close to the Trade Center. That awful, horrible day, in our history, and how it affected all of us, and so many people, that we know. That was, for me, that was the final epiphany, that life is too short, and you have to do, what you love. And there wound up an assistant position wound up opening at Harvard the following year, 2002, 2003. The head coach there, Scott Anderson, I played for, he wound up hiring me, and this was a position that was just during the lacrosse season. So I jumped at it though, an opportunity to come back to my alma mater and coach. So this was 2003 was the first season. So combined with that, I also wound up getting a master's in education at Boston College. So I wound up being in that position for 3 years. And that's where, it was essentially almost a volunteer position. I was doing a ton of camps all summer. I was doing private lessons. I was doing a ton. I was working more to make money than I was really coaching. And then, 3 years after that, the other position opened up that wound up being full-time. And I was fortunate enough to move into that position. 2007, Coach Anderson retires. Coach John Tillman gets hired. And I wind up, Harvard makes a great choice in Tills. I wind up moving on, and I went to boating college for a year. And 2008 season, I was at Bowdoin, and having been a player in the Ivy League, coaching the Ivy League, I didn't know anything else. That was another incredible experience for me. I think a lot of people will say that Division I, the Division II, the Division III. I look at it as regardless of ability, or, and first off, there's Division III guys that'll be successful at Division I. There's Division I guys that can't play, that can't start in Division III level. But, obviously overall, the top Division I teams are the best. To me, it was always about just being a part of a group that collectively works together towards something. And the kids at Bowdoin, man, they cared as much as anyone. They care as much as the guys I coach today at Notre Dame. And that, that blew me away, because they didn't have fall ball. They had to do everything on their own, the NESCAC model. It was just another eye opener, another great experience. And then that following that year, I got really lucky, and, Corey Winkoff's alma mater, a position opened up. Brian Volker, who was the coach there, I'd known him for a while, and I wound up, being fortunate to get a position at Penn, and went to Penn, and Coach Volker, Connor Ford, Pete Jacobs, and I was seriously the outcast. There's 3 Hopkins guys, the mecca of lacrosse, and some dude from Harvard. They're like, what's going on? What's going on here? But we, as Corey knows, I mean, we had a blast, and that following year, there's a lot of coaches moved around that year. Coach Tierney went out to Denver, and then Chris Bates, who was at Drexel, wound up getting the Princeton job, and then Brian Volker at Penn wound up going to Drexel, and then Mike Murphy at Haverford wound up getting the Penn job. And that year, I applied for the Penn job and gave it my best shot to get it, and Murph wound up getting it. It's a great hire, and Murph is a good friend of mine, and I was really lucky that he kept me on staff as an assistant. And so I now had worked with four guys: Scott Anderson, Tom McCabe, Brian Volker, Mike Murphy. I was really looking back in terms of my journey, moving around a lot and what have you. But it was awesome just to be able to have those opportunities. And one thing that I do believe in is when you're starting out, if you can do it, it's more important who you're working with maybe than what your job is. I think after, in 2007, when I was leaving Harvard, my approach was I will go and I'll go be a volunteer somewhere to learn under the best person or, staff as possible. It wasn't like I want to be the defensive or offensive coordinator. I want to have this much responsibility. Yes, I want to have that? Yes. But I think, in terms of self-discovery for me, it was more of I wanted, the best possible mentor. So looking back, I really had those 4 guys, that I worked for. And then 2010 season, Maryland opens up, and John Tillman gets the Maryland job. He leaves Harvard after 3 years, and was that interview process. They wound up initially in that process, they were only going to hire a Division I head coach, and so that's not me. But I always look back on that experience and that process. That again, it's not in my control, what the parameters were or what the criteria was for who they were going to hire. But what was in my control, if they ever gave me a look, I was going to be so prepared. And I had obviously been preparing for an opportunity to interview for a head job. I did it the year before Penn, but I was ready. And whatever it was, a 5-10%, again, they said they were going to hire a Division I standing head coach. But I knew if my number was ever called, I was going to be prepared. And all the different twists and turns that search took, a few weeks later, they wound up asking me to come in, and I gave it my best shot. And I was really lucky, to get that job. And, for me, going back to Harvard in 2010, it was my alma mater. I'd always looked at that as my dream job. Where I went to school, and how much I loved my overall experience there. And I wound up having a very up and down career there. We had some great years and some really bad years. And over that journey, how much that I learned, and we fast forward to last year. I was fired last year, a little over a year ago, now. And I think, when it happened, my heart broke. But where I've grown as a person and as a professional, there's to me, there's a reason for everything. There's a reason. I don't know that reason right now. But what I do know is that, I live my life in a simple principle that, I can't control what happens to me all the time, but I can control how I respond. Last summer, Notre, it wound up being, Jerry, Coach Byrne, great hire, by Harvard. Him and I essentially almost switched spots. A thing I've realized in my journey is coaching is coaching. Whether it's the high school level, whether it's Division III, Division II, Division I, when you put a group of people together, if we share the same values, coaching is coaching. So again, I was lucky to have this opportunity to come out to Notre Dame. It's been an awesome year, for our family. We only played 5 games, but it's just been an incredible year being embraced by this community out here. And my wife and young children we're really enjoying ourselves out here.
We dive into Holland. How is that? I mean, soccer is so far ahead of us in terms of like individual skill training and the sport that really wrote the book in that, right? I mean, how was that experience?
And I'm a big, I'm huge in terms of individual development, the model, and not but primarily where the research and the reading and everything I've kind of done in terms of developing skill is come more from the soccer side. Just from my own personal experience, one thing that always stands out in my mind, just so you're over in Holland, where it's, in most countries in the world, is by far the number one sport. I mean, it's culture, the sport in Holland. And as I said, most countries, just how immersed you are in soccer all the time. So every single night on TV, there are multiple channels that are showing games and are showing highlights and commentary. And, there's there's 3 ESPNs, for just soccer there. And just constantly that right there, the mental piece of that, you're constantly watching and there's critiquing. I developed as a player just by doing that, so first and foremost. Then, the second thing, and this is a little bit more of the kind of the research, I've done is, I think a couple things, and I don't know how deep dive we want to go into development here, but I think in the United States, we do it backwards. We first, young kids, when they start playing lacrosse, we start teaching them technique, and this is how you shoot, this is how you do, X, Y, and Z. In European soccer and South American soccer, and a lot of places, what they do is they first, before a person can learn the game, they need to learn to love the game. So if I'm a 7-year-old boy, do I really want to be doing like stick work and line drills and, riding? No, I want to play. You look at, some of the soccer models. I mean, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, all they do is play 2-on-2 or 3-on-3. That's it. And it's simply every kid is out there, it's 2v2, one kid jumps in goal. It's kind of like the 3-by here, right? 2-on-2, one kid jumps in goal. It's 2v1, 6-minute game. Everyone plays goalie. Winner moves right, loser goes left. So you wind up bringing the higher level play, teams wind up competing, and the lower level, so it's fun for all. I mean, they're doing this for 3 straight years. And I think in our country, we're a very transactional society where parents, if I pay X, well, I want to see results. And when young kids are just playing the sport, when they're just playing soccer, you're not going to see that. What they are doing though subconsciously, they're learning the game. They're embedding long-term, skills that are gonna one, be more transferable, and 2, are gonna show up down the road. But it's a lot easier for an American coach to, I showed your son how to shoot today, and he got a little bit, better. When we start coaching young kids in most sports, we're doing what we think is best for the adults. We're not doing what is best for the kids. The 7 and 8-year-olds, they want to play. Okay. And I think that they need to learn to love the game, before they can learn the game. And I don't think we should start teaching them skill and tech. Yes, I think there should be some basic parts of practice. This is how you hold a stick. This is how you pick up a ground ball, for sure. Just some very basic stuff. But we let them play. It's hard to do though. You grow in a community, and you guys, we've all coached at the youth level. Corey, you live it. Think about if everyone shows up at FLG on 7-year-olds, and you just play the whole time. The parents are going to be like, well, what'd they learn today? They didn't learn anything. They just played. So we don't get that. You're actually learning more by playing and doing, and no restrictions. So you take chances, you take risks, you try cool things, and you get better by experimenting. And there's no referee. You got to figure it out yourself. You got knocked on your butt. Well, you know what? Tough. You got to get back up and fight for yourself. There's no ref or coach, calling a foul, and that's our basketball. That's our basketball culture in the United States. We're so good. I mean, the playground, it's just a ball and guys going, to play. So in terms of my training of individual development, every time someone makes a play, I think there's three things that go into that play. First, there's assessing. I need to assess the situation. So if I have the ball on my stick, okay, where's my defender? Where's my teammates? Where are the other defenders? I need to assess that situation. Second, I make a decision. What am I going to do? Am I going to dodge? Am I going to shoot? Am I going to pull it out? Am I going to, try to throw a skip pass? Whatever it is, I make a decision. And then the third thing is execution. I need to execute that play. I think we do a ton of coaching and teaching on the execution part. I don't think we nearly do enough of coaching and teaching on the assessment and the decision-making process. So for the Notre Dame players, when our offense sits down and watches film, they know my approach, they know my model. What I'm doing mostly, though, is I'm coaching the assessment and the decision-making.
Coach, I think we want to move into the drill segment, but one quick thing that I just resonated with me, I wrote down what you said, assessment, decision-making, and execution, and I think that's something that I've never layered it like that, but something that I try to do with our guys. And the thing that I found, if you teach the assessment, you teach the decision making, it equals buy-in from the guys on the execution piece, right? Because now it's not, for me, it's not my defense, go do it the right way.
Yeah.
Here is the thought process behind it. And if you can understand the thought process, you will buy into the overall scheme of what we're trying to do. So that resonated with me when you said that. I thought that was cool.
And I think rightfully so, the way, this generation has been raised, and I think rightfully so, is they, they want to know why. You're not going to be bought in unless they understand why they're doing it and do they believe in it. And that is coaching today. I mean, right there in a nutshell, that is there's some incredible coaches, okay, that can't get players to buy into the why and to buy into what they're doing. And so to me, our X's and O's and the drills we run, that's like 10% of what we do. It's, it's just being able to connect and get people to buy into what you're doing is by far the most important thing.
Yeah. I remember, Coach, going through it as a player, which is kind of cool to hear your perspective on it as a coach, being someone who went through it under you. And I think something that if you buy in, like you said, and you actually listen and believe in what you're saying, things start to click and the game starts to feel easy too and fun, like you said. And I remember getting to a point where it took like a while. Like I remember it was like I was under you for 2 years. In the second year, I felt like the game, like the field looked bigger, the game slowed down, and the execution piece was just happening because we had repped it out. But also just this, the assessment and decision making was something that just came easy just because we felt prepared for it. And that idea of just things clicking in your head is just such an enjoyable experience for players. So I think that's it's kind of cool to hear your perspective and thinking back on it. It's cool to understand why that started to happen for me.
Kind of looking back on our time together, Corey, one thing that I'll always remember, it was the second year with Murph, our first Ivy game. I don't know if you remember this, but we go to Princeton. It's a day trip. And we get to Princeton first half, and we are rolling. We're up 6-1 at halftime. And not to bring back bad memories, but we wind up losing that game by a goal. And on the bus ride home, it's about an hour back to Penn. I'm probably like third row back on the right side, and you're across from me, sitting by yourself, and you're bawling your eyes out. This is 45 minutes into the trip, and I get emotional, thinking about it, like how passionate you are and were about the game, about your teammates, and about the program. I can't remember, what I had for lunch last week, but I can remember that moment will always be in my heart, in terms of how passionate you are about the game and Penn and the program.
I don't remember that, Coach, but I appreciate you bringing bad and good, good, I guess.
Yeah.
Good morals, bad memories, good memories.
Real men cry, Corey. It's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We hit the post, man, right at the end. We had it.
Yeah. I still think about that game to this day. There's certain plays, that one included, that I think about, which is pretty crazy, the impact of what you guys do.
You didn't hit the post.
But let's get into that drill.
This is the drill I want to include. It's just a very simple 4-on-4 drill. I think overall, when you, in terms of parts to the whole, as you build up, I always think 4-on-4 is a really great drill because there's just so many different ways you can run it, and it incorporates everything you want offensively in terms of having someone with the ball is either trying to make a play and dodging with a forward and back outlet, and then you either have the other guys either a crease or a skip, through, and then defensively. In general, sliding adjacent, but you can slide, from the crease. So I think it's just a great drill overall. Now, this is the way we run this drill is it's a parts to whole to the pairs offense. So, in a pairs offense, we have 3 2-man pairs. So this drill just takes out one of those pairs. And in this particular instance of this drill, we're working on the left pair above the cage and the right pair above the cage. So the 2 players that play around the goal are not involved in this drill. We do put a dummy offensive player at X, and his simple role is he is a transfer. Because what we don't want is we don't want them just, we want it to be realistic in terms of getting the ball through X. So that player is just there uncovered as a transfer outlet. Balls just start in the goal with the goalie, and then the goalie can his instruction is just throw it out to any of the 4 offensive guys, and we play. Right side pair, left side pair. And then again, with the pair, it could be a pick. We could, use what I like a lot of people call a mirror. I think one thing that I really like, I guess, just really starting from the big picture, is, it's a very simple offense. I think a lot of people think pairs. They think, Canadian, high level skill, complexity. Everything that's really done in this offense is very simple. So in this case right here, we are, 51 comes in to set a pick, but he doesn't have to set a pick. He can essentially almost be a mirror and kind of show, what that looks like in a subsequent clip. The backside players, as the ball is carried or dodged towards you, right, they're, essentially their menu. And again, one thing in terms of the way I coach is, I always say to our guys, we're not lines, on a page. You guys are dynamic lacrosse players here. I'm trying to teach you IQ to read your defender, read the defense, read your teammate to make lacrosse plays. So no 2 plays are going to look, the same, but just very basic guidance. The pair, as the ball's coming towards that pair now is called the adjacent pair. So 2 and 6 are now essentially, if we were in a 6-man unit, they would become the adjacent pair, and the 2 guys behind the goal would be called the third pair. Now, number 2, he is the decision maker, and essentially he can do one of 3 things, just like any offense. He can set a pick for the ball, he can clear through, or he can drift. Now, in this pairs offense, 99% of the time, he's either gonna cut through or drift. We really like to kind of stay in our pair, so 2's not really coming across a lot. Now, we did have a couple big athletic middies who we kind of like to weave a little bit, like run a little weave offense with. But primarily 2 is going to make a decision. He's going to clear through or he's going to drift. Now, so 6 is reading 2. If 2 drifts, 6 cuts the crease. Again, what he's, just in general. If 2 cuts through, 6 we call cycles up as the forward outlet. And now, just like any offense, we'd like to have a forward outlet supporting the ball. We would like to have a back outlet supporting the ball. We would like to have then probably a crease presence most of the time, and then 2 guys in skip lanes. Now, one other great thing about this offense is it can be run as an open set with no crease. It can be run as with 1 guy in the crease. It could be run with 2 guys on the crease. So even though we're running the exact same concepts offensively, the defense could think we're running different offenses, 0 in, 1 in, 2 in. And I think what's very difficult defensively, especially teams that want to slide from the crease, 1, when you're showing no crease, there's no crease to slide from. But 2, changing the crease, going from 0 in to 2 in to 1 in, that's hard. Getting into kind of the 4-on-4 drill here, as he carries across, 2 kind of holds, and now 6 will cut through. This guy just winds a nice little backdoor cut. We missed the pass, but here we go. So goalie again throws the ball out to anyone he wants. Man comes up, sets a pick. As the ball's coming across, that pair is adjacent. It's going to be obviously in a 4-on-4. They're going to be adjacent every time. He cuts through, and then 51 just cycles as the forward outlet. Another advantage of this offense is as two kind of steps up field. Anytime you're, in a two-man game situation, the defender on the ball is not just guarding the ball. He now has to worry about a potential pick, listening for communication from his teammate who's defending the guy coming in to be the mirror or to set a pick. And a lot of times you get poor approaches, whether too high or too low. So a lot of what two is doing in any situation is he's reading his defender's posture. And what will happen a lot of times, that defender might get too high because he wants to get over the pick if he thinks two is going topside, and then we teach him to we just call break it off and blow by your guy underneath. Or if he gets too low for whatever reason, it gives you an opportunity to get over the top. So you're able to manipulate the defense by using a pick and using a mirror, and not to get into the two-man stuff too much, but the conceptually a two-man game, that it's not, yes, it's a one-on-one dodge, but you're manipulating that on-ball defender by bringing a mirror and a pick. And a lot of times you're forcing him into overplaying you one way to give you something else, and then you take advantage of it. So that's what he does there, and he just gets underneath. Now, it's a little unrealistic in terms of slides. We don't have, sorry, just to go back a little bit. A lot of teams, when they slide, they'll slide. You guys see my cursor here?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We'll slide off this guy. We call them, this is our guy is the mirror. A lot of teams will slide off that mirror because they don't want to slide adjacent. Just think two more players in here. They don't want to slide adjacent. So it's a little unrealistic, but most teams will do that. And then when you come over the top, a lot of teams might try to pull a guy in to essentially show a crease if there's no crease, or just slide adjacent.
I mean, as a defensive coach, I love this type of stuff, though, because to your point earlier, it's forcing those guys to make decisions in uncomfortable space. So we do stuff like this all the time because we run some Parsy stuff too. And while sometimes it makes my head explode in practice, I do like kind of making our guys have to make tough decisions in unconventional situations. Yeah.
The only one downside I think of sometimes of these drills is there are teams that do want to come adjacent, and now you're teaching the wrong habits. We do want to come off that guy on the pipe, or we don't want to slide. And if we do slide, we slide adjacent. So you are, that example right there, that guy just ran right to the goal. The team that's slid adjacent, there'd be a guy obviously coming, to his face.
Right.
All right. So here's just an example. 26 gets the ball. These guys in red jerseys, what it means just don't blow these guys up. I know that it's not really a no contact thing. It's just don't blow them up. He is now essentially a mirror.
Coach Woj, why are you having him mirror and not pick for the viewer's sake?
So a couple reasons. When you set picks, you really condense the space between the two offensive players. There are times where setting picks allow the defense to be super aggressive, blow you up, disrupt your timing, or your spacing. Now, one great thing about this offense is you can run it both ways. So there's no right or wrong here, Corey. There are times where using picks is better. There are times I think running in terms of mirrors is better. If teams don't want to switch their matchups like a big little, you'll think about maybe running more picks, because then you put them under tremendous pressure. When you pick, it's really difficult, to stay, with matchups. Teams that really don't care about matchups, you can use mirrors. The last part will be then, where are they going to slide from? So if we use the pick and we got what I call leverage, what I mean by leverage is when the offensive player has the advantage. When he gets a half step or a step, we always refer to that as leverage. So when he gets leverage, now, off ball, the defense is going to, they don't slide, he runs right to the goal, but the majority of the time they're going to slide. When you come off a pick and you get leverage, you're usually going to draw a third defender in the slide. And another great part about this offense is your backside now is a 4-on-3 advantage for you offensively. Whereas if we just run a traditional offense, let's say we alley dodge, we draw a slide, we've drawn two guys to the ball, but now it's 5-on-4 on the backside. So pairs, when you work in pairs and you're able to commit a third defender to the ball, simple math, we're all smart people, 4-on-3 is easier than 5-on-4 in most situations. The mirror is also a great concept where guys just don't feel comfortable setting picks. They're not as maybe slick and tight. And you can also, this looks like a traditional downhill dodge offense. So you can run this offense with no picks. And a lot of teams don't want to run pairs because they think you got to do picks and slips and in tight and slick. You don't have to set a single pick to run this offense. You're just simply working in pairs. That's all. And we can mirror far away. We can mirror closer, whatever it might be. But, sorry for the long-winded answer. There is no one correct answer. It's going to be what your team is best able to execute. And there's going to be good and bad about picks and mirrors in different situations. So again, teams that want to slide at Jason, this is not a great drill, right? Because he's running the goal. Here they come across from the crease, still winds up getting shot. The on-ball two-man game, there's a ton of information out there, webinars, people talking about it. I think one thing that's underdeveloped from the coaching side is a lot of the off-ball two-man game aspect. And I think that's the next, in terms of cutting edge, I look at a team like Penn State, they're exceptional at the off-ball two-man game. A lot of teams can get really good at the on-ball piece, but they're exceptional at the off-ball. And this is a good example right here. 26 sees his guy, if this player comes over the top, that his guy's probably going to be hot. So he goes and seals the opposite guy. And again, these guys now have to communicate, all right, who's hot? I need to get around. And then he slips it. So just the off-ball two-man game is really difficult to play when the defender has to be in the hot slide position and the other guy has to be in a support role. So another thing in terms of when, we watch film as a team and just development of our players is when we watch, I pretty much try to get them, do not watch the ball. I'll tell you when to look at the ball. I want you watching off ball. And I'm constantly teaching our guys to spy your defender, okay, to see where he is. Try to put yourself in a position where if you get the ball, he can't recover to you, or try to manipulate your defender or the backside defense to put them in really difficult, positions. So here he does a really good job. We don't complete it, but that's something this is a clip I would show to the team as a huge positive. Because now there's almost really no slide two until too late. The assessment piece was really good there. The execution was not. Here, really good job of 26. Shows like he's going to set a pick and then breaks it off right away. And again, just the stress this puts on with the two-man situation, okay? He looks like he's got to support the ball defensively, forgets about his guy. And now we have a pass to one of our best players with a poor approach from the defender. So we didn't beat a single guy offensively, but we created a situation with a really bad approach that we can get we don't have to be super athletic running by people here. We've created a great opportunity.
26 is having a drill here.
Yeah, and I said, he's a first-team All-American, so I don't want to use him too many times. That's not coaching. That's a great player right there. So this is just a good example, just to show the mirror concept again. So two is the mirror here, obviously. Again, just the pressure. If his guy wants to slide, he's in a great position. We throw it back for a shot.
Yeah, that puts that guy in a really tough spot too, because he's got to decide how bad do I want to go, and then to get help, they've got to come all the way across the field to help him.
Yeah, and you'll see we're also coaching. I think a lot of coaches out there are like, we got to use two hands. Do I believe in being two-handed? Yeah, but I believe in being effective. Ideally, you like to have two left-handed players on this side. Again, these are all basics. Two right-handed players on this side. Every time, at any point on the field, our stick is in our inside hand. So a shot from my cursor right here with my left hand is a higher percentage shot probably than with my right hand. Again, all right, so we're Notre Dame. We're at Maryland here. Notre Dame's in blue and Maryland's in white. All right, you see, really, really simply the pairs here. My cursor 43 and 55. 15 and 26, and now we have the pair here 51 and 18. One just general principle. I know this isn't black and white, but very simple principle. If the ball is 10 yards above GLE or higher, so in this case the 20-yard line, this attack pair usually will start open and on the pipes, or maybe backside, but we don't show a crease. The higher we are up. If the ball is 10 yards or less above GLE, we'll usually show a crease and X, simply because if he goes underneath, kind of the adjacent look really constricts the space to dodge into. So we will show a crease now. Now again, that's not a hard, fast, thing, but that's just a general guiding principle when running the offense.
I like that.
So here they kind of slips it off. And again, ball's coming this way, 55 cuts through, 45 is going to come up. We actually did cut the crease there. We give this third pair a tremendous amount of latitude just to make plays. One thing in any offense we run, we call it a blast cut. Anytime you think you can cut to the ball, you cut to the ball. It doesn't matter what we're running. Be a lacrosse player, read the situation. If you think you can blast cut, blast cut. So I just wanted to show this too, because this is an example. We don't have good balance with our attack pair. Right now we should definitely have a forward outlet. We should either be crease and forward outlet, or crease. We should be on the pipes. I call it pipes kind of right here, nesting on the right and left pipe. Our spacing is really bad. I want to include this because this is an offense where the spacing can look really bad if the guys aren't communicating and working together. So again, just simply getting it through X. We didn't really do anything. We didn't beat anyone. We just passed it through X. We now have a player who's got 5 yard, 7 yard separation, right, on a short stick, and their entire team we call this the Z line, this middle up, straight from the middle of the goal, straight up the field. The Z line is almost on the entire other side of the field, the Z line.
I also love you guys are in a 1-4 now, which goes against what people would generally think as a pair Z Canadian open set offense.
Yep.
That's, I touched on that earlier. When a lot of high school coaches we've talked to them about, this offense. And I think we like to run, I'm like, well, you can run any set you want. You're paired. That's all. It could be a 1-4-1. It could be a 2-2-2. You can look like a 3 high. It can look like a 1-3-2. It's anything that you want it to be. So here, Maryland does a really good job of, they're sliding off that mirror. And essentially it looks like a 1-4-1. So they're coming from the crease, but these guys are paired. So it is the mirror here. This is exactly what I said we don't want. We don't ever want this, where this guy's rotating across into your hands and you're going to have to step back. But he does a really good job of stepping out and getting a really good shot.
Damn.
So right here, we're attacking a short. These two guys become the adjacent pair, 51, 26. He should be drifting, and 26 should be cutting, or he should be cutting behind this defender's head. We wound up, what happens a lot of times, again, when this offense can look bad, is as you attack, that adjacent pair just stands there.
So the guy that's let's talk about the guys on the ball side. The guy that's furthest from the ball is reading adjacent offensive.
Yes.
That's a principle. Okay.
Yep.
Double drift.
You can double drift, definitely. That is an option. You'll see. I actually show that, I think, later,
especially with his range, right?
Yeah. And again, not gonna get too much into personnel, but this is our best player right here. Almost always, this guy is getting out. Like if 51, he's usually should be cutting through, so 26 can get it. If 26 is here, he's usually drifting, and the other guy's getting through. We almost always kept him out on the perimeter, and they had a playoff.
That's Constable, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can use his name. We're gonna at him.
Yeah.
Bazooka man.
Yeah, I mean he'll be able to hit 2-pointers in the PLL.
Can 51 get through here? Jeez.
He should have. So we had this was 18.
It's for you, Brian.
Yeah.
So we coached more important than on-ball offense.
Exactly. We coached this guy to be decisive. We wind up getting lucky here. We pulled it back the other way. 51 clears through, and now we force getting one slide. You don't get a second slide. And this is just simple adjacent, right?
How you doing?
It's interesting. You guys vacated ball side there.
Yeah. And
it really put Maryland in a bind because they were trying to come from the other pair, and then that guy was on the crease when the dodge started.
So this is, again, like this guy right here who scores, he is now the adjacent player in the adjacent pair, right? The ball's being dodged right towards his pair, and he's adjacent. And he's taught, clear through, or drift. But this is where it's going to be a lacrosse player. If you read the defense where your guy's hot and there's no two, stand there. Especially our guys who play on the pipes. We're taught they're reading more the second slide than the first slide, but he winds up doing it really well. So these two guys, this is the ball side here.
I mean, like Jo, how hard is this offense to defend? I'm just like watching it, and I'm like, I don't understand how over an 80-second clock, or however long the possession is, it's got to be so hard to maintain. What you're trying to do here.
You really got to teach your guys how to make decisions and stick with them. Like our thing is that it doesn't even matter if you're right or wrong as long as everybody's trying to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. I think that's the hardest thing. Like Coach Wojcik said, it looks so different dodge to dodge. It's not like just lines on a page. Well, you're always going to see this. You're always going to see that. You've got to be a confident decision maker, and everybody's got to be doing the same thing.
It's a great point that, I think where to defend this offense, I don't think I'm giving away, too much here, but the teams that you pick a way to defend it and you're super decisive and aggressive. Yeah. If you're going to get beat, it's going to be because those guys are really fast decision makers with high skill and able to get their hands free. And if we get beat that way, we get that they earned it. But if you aren't decisive, there's so many gray areas within this offense, and that's what breaks down the defense. Mm-hmm. So here, all right, so this is a simple, as he comes across the middle, like 26 and 15 are this, now they're the adjacent pair, right? So again, 26 taught either to drift and 15 clear through, or 26 clears through and 15 drifts. But what another concept, we call this looks bad right now on the backside, right? But we're actually trying to do this because it doesn't look like there's any slide. Yep. So the kind of a concept of grab a man, meaning if your guy's going to stay with you and not go, okay, we'll play 5-on-5. Grab a man here. Again, doesn't look good, but because there's space here, it doesn't look like they're sliding. These guys do not move. They both just stand there. It winds up being the right play. He gets right. He doesn't score, but he gets right to the, gets 8 yards with his strong hand. This is really good here. As 43 catches it, the 15 really cut the crease, and 26 is now, again, it's our big shooter. So we want him hanging perimeter. We want him trying to hunt the ball on the perimeter. But what 15 does a really smart job, as 43 carries, essentially if we don't score here, we're going to switch pairs. And so they're given the freedom at any point. We could switch the combination. If 43 carries here, him and 26 are now paired, and 15 got through and is with 55. So it gives you, again, a lot of flexibility and freedom to kind of switch to pairs. But this is just, again, 15 really smart. We call this grab a man. You cut through and your guy's going to stay with you, and you can pull him out of the play and get him out of the backside of the defense. Now it's a 2-on-1. So he essentially, that concept is grab a man by 15, cutting through the crease. His guy's out. Now it's a 2-on-1. Yep. You can run this as your early offense with your D middies on the field. So 24 is a D midi. Okay, so we're just going to umbrella the backside. You two pairs up here, pair here, and it's essentially the exact same offense, but you're running it with a D midi being covered by a no midi. So he's just coming out to set the pick.
Yep. Stress out the D a little bit.
Yeah, it's, again, you're keeping it really, I believe in keeping it really simple.
Simple, yeah.
But very hard to defend.
And you're right to it.
Yeah, so now we're right in it. And we call this look kind of 24. At times, how I said when the ball's above 10 yards, these guys are on the attack pair on the pipes. There's times where we actually put them X and backside to almost 4-man umbrella on the backside, and then just a 2-man game. You actually see this in the PLL a lot. They do a 2-man game, and they just completely put the other 4 guys on the other side of the field. And I think for teams that don't slide, this is really tough because you've pulled the other 4 guys to this side of the field, and a lot of times you can get underneath. If your spacing is not good offensively, and like right now, see this, my cursor 13, if he's more to the middle and he rotates hard into that guy's hands, if your spacing is not good offensively, that's tough to execute offensively when they rotate hard into it like that. But here's just another example of like, just don't even, this backside pair doesn't even do anything because there's no one showing hot here, you know, and you went, again, these are teams maybe that want to slide crease, but you can't when there's no crease.
Right.
So you need to be able to quickly declare, like 27's got to declare. And if he's a step slow, the guy gets the middle. You know, I mean, it's just confusion because we went from one in to no in. We showed a crease and then we took them out. So now they got to make a decision. We can't slide crease anymore. We need to go adjacent. This brush pick I like to use a lot of times. And what a brush pick is, so do you see my cursor right here? As he's coming in to set a pick, he's going to try to align his right shoulder, so his outside shoulder, with 52's inside shoulder right here. And it's a pick and roll in basketball. But what that does is by this 52 just brushes and doesn't completely get picked, he could still move laterally. And but it also slows him up a bit. So it allows 55 to potentially get leverage. And because it's not a clean pick, it makes it really confusing for the off-ball defender. That he doesn't know, he's kind of with him. Do I need to switch? And we create leverage again by not even having to be athletic enough to run by anyone.
Still teaches, you talked about with your downfield foot, you want like 75% of the weight there.
Exactly.
And light on the foot. Yeah.
You remember exactly. So the attention to detail in terms of teaching technique. And so 43 should have the majority of his weight, say 75% of his weight on his inside foot. So when the defender brushes that right shoulder, he can roll, pick and roll in basketball and open up, to the ball. He doesn't do a great job, but we still get two going with the ball, right? We don't hit the shot, but.
You can create a lot of indecision there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Coach, we appreciate all the insight and you taking the time to really break down the nuts and bolts of like what you guys do and the methodology of how you approach things. It's pretty cool to see. Real quick, one thing we just want to touch on is like, how have you evolved just what you do as a coach? Considering, you spent a lot of time in the Ivies and now you're at ND. What's different, or are you kind of just doing what you've always done?
Each school that I've been at, and now coming kind of from Ivies to ACC, each school for different reasons, different structure, do things differently, providing different resources. And so it's really hard to compare, circumstance to circumstance, other than, what I will say about here at Notre Dame, the resources that have been given, I think, to the program, it's essentially what do you need to be the best version of yourself? What do you need to win a national championship? Our own strength coach who's just with us, our own trainer who's with us all year round, a nutritionist, our own academic advisor. These are all just dedicated people full time just for the men's lacrosse program, which has blown me away. Never been at a place that has provided, that type of resource. So one thing I've really loved about, combine that with the overall mission and the values of the school, something that, I'm aligned to. And then our program, character, culture, and community, a big reason why I wanted to come out here, because I'm aligned, with those in terms of my personal values, that they're aligned with Coach Corrigan and the program. So I think, the biggest, and again, not necessarily difference, it's just I've been overwhelmed with the support, how they've embraced me here, and just the simple mentality of the approach from the administration of what do you need to be the best that you can be.
Very cool.
Super cool. Having that type of support is always nice.
Yeah. It's amazing.
All right. Well, Coach Woj, we appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, this was awesome, Coach. Thank you for spending a couple hours with us. It was really.
I love it, man. I learned just as much, from you guys. So I love doing these things. So if you guys ever want to just do all film or anything else, I'd be happy to do it, and record or not record.
Recurring guest. Let's go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. We could talk about Corey in college. Just we won't record.
Maybe old school.
We need that. I think we need that.
Let's do it. We'll pull up some old film. Might be a little fuzzy, but
exactly.
So it's
all right, guys, man. Hey, stay healthy, all right?
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Woj. Awesome. Great job, brother.
Thanks, man. See you guys.
Appreciate it, man.